It's Ekene here, and I am your friendly feminine leadership coach. They call me the Iconic Woman's Coach. I run a community called Iconic Womanhood, and of course, I'm on this page. If you're not following, hit the follow button because there's a lot of great content that we have coming through the pipeline, and I want to share with you. Today, I want to do a Q&A. Got a great question in my DMs about strategic privacy. So I recently did a class called Becoming Queen, where I shared from a biblical perspective on feminine leadership. And one of the things I talked about was strategic privacy and how there's a difference between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy is rooted in shame. Privacy is private. I just don't need to put all my stuff out on Front Street. And it's important to know the difference, and it's important to give yourself the permission to keep certain things to yourself. You have a right to your privacy. It would be strange if you went outside naked, right? People would look at you like, hey, because that's supposed to be private. There are parts of your life that you have the right and perhaps even the responsibility to keep private. Now, I talked about strategic privacy, and I got this great question in my DMs. And she said she had been going through a divorce, or I think she had come through a divorce or something. She's divorced or divorcing. And people asking, how do you cope with people asking you things like, how is your husband? People that may not know you're divorced, like, how do you cope with that? You don't want to make an announcement. You don't want to kind of deal with it. You don't want to, do a press release. How do you deal with that? And it's so interesting. And she had said she's not wearing her ring or things like that. So it's not like she's trying to hide it, but it's in process. She doesn't want to talk about it. And she had mentioned maybe going to a party or something like that. And people that are not even really part of your life, just nosy, right? Maybe there's been a little gossip about it and they just kind of want to get into it with you. So how do you handle that? I thought that was a really great question, and one that probably a lot of us could relate to. And you can use the same advice for anything at all that you don't want to talk about, because you have a right not to talk about it, particularly with people who are not even close to you. There are people who are just gossips. They would never call you to check on you. They don't care how you're doing. They just want to be gossipy. I've had that experience myself. I remember going to a party here in Atlanta, actually. Yes, and if you are the lady that, if the shoe fits, wear it, and change your ways in Jesus' name. But I remember this woman who, I can't even remember her name, to be honest. That's how casual it is. I may see her once in a blue moon when I go to these events, and I hardly go. In fact, I hardly get invited anymore. I see all of you. It's okay. I forgive you. It's okay, because people know that I'm very introverted, and also since I started doing this work, I do a lot of, like, before COVID, I was constantly having events and stuff, so I was often very busy. So I remember this lady, and she just, I don't know whether she had heard some things or whatnot, but she started interrogating me. And she asked me a question, and I responded just fine or something like that, right? Moving on. And she wanted to go deeper. And I'm going to give you some things to do so that you don't flip out and get irritated. But it really was ridiculous, because this is a woman who would never check on me, ever. Who doesn't care one bit about me. She just is nosy. And it is not my responsibility to feed her nosy hunger. It is not my responsibility, and it's not yours. So there are so many options here, but I want to sort of give you some socially intelligent options, if I may. Okay, so the first thing is, if someone says to you, for example, if you're going through a divorce, or you're separated, and they're asking you about your husband, right? How's your husband? And how do you respond to that? You can say, and you want to be truthful, but at the same time, you don't want to have a conversation. You know of whom they're speaking. So let's say your husband's name is John. So your ex-husband now, right? You don't want to have a conversation about how he's your ex-husband now, or you're separated or whatnot. You can if you want to, but you don't want to. Let's say you don't want to. You can simply say, I'm sure John is fine. Or you can even take it up a notch. Oh, by God's grace, John is fine. Oh, I believe John is fine. If you've spoken to him recently and you know he's fine, you can certainly say, John is fine. End of matter. End of matter. Now, if they want to go a little further, if they want to push, oh, really? Why is he not here? Or whatever. This is when you can now employ something that I believe is a lost art. Ladies understand this, women of a certain age and social experience, they know how to do this and they do it so well. It is the subtle art of changing the topic. So, I haven't seen him around. You haven't been posting on him. I've just been wondering. Then you can say, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you are so concerned. I think people these days are not as concerned about each other. We're not as loving in our communities. The world needs more love. I'm just so excited when I see love. When I see big celebrities doing wonderful things, loving things. Did you see what that celebrity did? It was so loving. They donated all this food to this orphanage. And in fact, it bothers me when I don't see that. That's why then you can take it to politics, you can take it to weather, you can take it anywhere. Any reasonable person will get the message that you have no desire to talk about it. And you've given them a very easy out. And you've also given yourself a graceful out. Now, there are some people who are quite ridiculous, that even with that, they still will persist. So you've changed the topic and they want to bring it back because they think that they are, they're social bullies. Well, what I believe you can do with all bullies is disengage. If you have done what you can do, and they are still trying to bring it back, you can simply end the conversation. Oh, it was so nice talking to you. You don't even have to lie, because if it wasn't nice, you don't have to say it was nice. It was so interesting talking to you. Oh, I'm going to go over there right now. Or, quite frankly, you don't have to say a thing. Exit stage left. But, I just wanted to give some opportunities, because obviously that question came from somebody who didn't want to be rude, and I totally get that. So you can say the person is fine. You can employ the technique of changing the topic. Very powerful technique. Now, if all else fails, and if you really want to go deep, you can become the therapist. That's an interesting question. I find that people who are so overly concerned about other people's lives are typically challenged in their own. Are you okay? Are you okay? I really just want to make sure you're okay, if all else fails. I hope this has been helpful. God bless you. Be well.